All right, football fans, welcome to a Tuesday episode of the Call Sheet Daily. I'm your host, Kevin Smith, and on today's show, we are going to be joined by some Call Sheet regulars, some frequent flyers here at the Call Sheet. My good friend Pez from Pez's Picks and the CEO of our humble organization here, Mr. Ken Wisnefski. Welcome to the show, brothers. How are y'all?
Hey, Coach. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man. Pez is rocking his green. I don't think he changed from St. Patrick's Day. I think he wore it right into Tuesday.
Correction, Coach. This is outfit 2 for St. Patty's Day. This is post-shower, and we're going to head back out and celebrate after this. I'm Irish through Sligo County up there in northwestern Ireland, so you got to do it right. You got to do it right. I mean, how could you not?
And, Wisnefski over there, that's as Irish as it gets, I think.
100%. 100%. I've been celebrating, plenty for St. Patrick's Day, too.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on today. We're a week into free agency, and our conversation today is going to be how has that first week changed the NFL landscape? I think you've seen some serious maneuvering by certain teams that have improved, teams that may have regressed. I know, Pez, that Vegas has had a little bit to say about this. So we're going to get into all of it. So, Pez, I'm going to start with you. Give me a team over the last week you think has really helped themselves.
Well, two things, Coach. I think Vegas has rewarded people. I'm not sure Pez's Picks is agreeing with this very much, but the biggest mover we've seen, Pittsburgh Steelers have gone from an 80-1 shot to win the Super Bowl to a 40-1. Now back to a 55-1. So you're plus 5,500 to bet 100. And I guess that's predicated on Aaron Rodgers coming to that team and DK Metcalf coming. So Pez's Picks, not a big believer in Aaron Rodgers, Coach, as you both know. So I think right now that line shifting tells me there's anarchy right now in season totals and in Super Bowl champions. And I wonder what Aaron Rodgers is going to do next year, whatever team he's going to be on.
Yeah, we're going to get to him in a minute, no doubt about that. I wonder, too, as a Steeler fan. What do you think, Ken? Who's helped themselves?
Believe it or not, I think one of the teams that actually helped themselves the most isn't a team that necessarily went out and signed a bunch of new free agents, but the Bengals keeping that kind of collective group together of, Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, I think was probably one of the best moves out there so far, being able to get that deal done when it looked like they were all going to separate. The Bengals got off to a bad start last year, and then they were super hot down the stretch, but just not enough to be able to make it into the playoffs. But they're one of the teams that I look at and say they didn't really add anybody new, but they kept the guys that they needed to, and it shows those guys want to play together.
They're going to be must-watch TV because they're going to play a lot of 45 to 35 games.
Yep.
If you like offense, man, they're going to be fascinating to watch.
There's a team for you.
For sure. Pez, who else has Vegas kind of got some movement on over the last week or so?
Well, if you go through chalk, Eagles are still predominantly the number one favorite. Kansas City, I believe, is now 3. Buffalo, Ravens, Washington have moved up. But when we get down to it, and this is from a gambling perspective, we know the NFL now it's a quarterback league. So the way we judge things at Pez's Picks, and I believe Vegas too, is what kind of quarterback moves have you made? Are you retaining? Are you upgrading? Are you downgrading? And when we talk about Kansas City, the Birds, Buffalo, the Ravens, now even Washington, quarterback position is set. So I think we're kind of tinkering a little bit with lineups. In our perspective, Kansas City and the Eagles have gotten a little bit worse, which is going to happen to Super Bowl teams. Buffalo has gotten a little better, I believe, in free agency. The Ravens, I think, have upticked their offense a little bit at the receiver position especially, and Washington's made some good moves. So after that top 5, we're getting into the dark a little bit here. I was busting some chops with some Dallas Cockroach fans and some of the Cowboy fans, if you will. 23rd team now to win the Super Bowl out of the entire league. So the Cockroaches have gotten worse. I don't think that they've maintained. And I think that top 5 or 6 team, we're tinkering with numbers right now.
It's interesting because I did a show on this on Monday where I talked about what has been the result of the biggest spenders in free agency over the last 5-6 years? Has it panned out? And for the most part, it really hasn't. You've seen some bumps in regular season win totals, but a lot of these teams that have all this money to throw around, they don't have the quarterback. That's why they have all the money, because they don't have the quarterback locked up on some mega deal. So your point about all those teams is a good one, because you're not going to see a ton of movement with them this time of year because their core's already in place. Ken, what's your take so far on what some of the better teams have done? Better teams, according to last year, have done so far in free agency.
I mean, I think that the Steelers, have helped themselves. Obviously, DK Metcalf was a big signing. Darius Slay, being an Eagles fan, I think he carries that reputation as being a Pro Bowler and all those things. I think Pez would probably agree with me. He had some good games down the stretch, but, there were other times that I think everybody was cursing Slay out at their TV a lot. So, I still think the Steelers have improved from where they were. I think the Mason Rudolph deal was probably pretty good, because it kind of gives them a fallback plan if they can't land Aaron Rodgers or do something else through, kind of the trades. But, I think the Commanders are an interesting team. Deebo Samuel coming over, obviously, who are you getting? If you're getting the guy from a few years ago, that's a great move. If you're getting the always injured, malcontent guy, it's not really going to help you all that much. But clearly the Commanders are trying to take advantage of Daniels being on that rookie contract and trying to add as many guys as they can right now to try to win. So, again, being an Eagles fan, the Commanders worry me a little bit more, because they weren't that far off last year. And if they add a few more pieces and we lose a few pieces, that could put us in a spot that, they jump over us in the NFC East.
I thought that was a huge deal when they landed Laramie Tunsil, the 5-time All-Pro lineman from Houston, which was shocking that Houston would give up on him. Remember Pez, I know Pez remembers. Pez, remember the Laramie Tunsil gas mask bong photo that dropped right before the draft when he was coming out? Poor guy.
Hopefully that was AI, Coach. I don't know if that's to be confirmed.
Poor guy. He's made out all right. You mentioned the Eagles. You guys think maybe they're I don't want to say have regressed, but if I asked you to finish this sentence, how would you finish it? Are the Eagles closer to repeating today than they were at the end of last season, or further away?
Pez, you start.
Well, I think when we look at the top 5 teams, which 5 to 7 teams, I don't think there are many teams out there that are equal to that caliber, those top 7 teams. The Eagles still have, without a doubt, the best offensive and defensive lines in the league. So we've lost a couple parts, but I think we have replacements in those areas. We've retained in a linebacker position. Our secondary, we lost some veteran guys, but we have rookies that are going to step right in there. So I think Kansas City and the Eagles and Buffalo and the Ravens, still the top 4 teams in the league. Washington may be sneaking in there. But when you look at some of these moves, Darnold to the Seahawks, I think that's actually a downgrade. We're taking a 1-year quarterback who had one good year in his career in a dome, moving to one of the worst towns to play in outdoors. Seattle, I've been to that town many times. I'm a big ski mountain guy. It's a depressing town. Rain, cold, year-round. So, and they lose an O-lineman and Will Fries. Fields to the Jets, I like that move a little bit. I think Fields for that offense, probably an upgrade to what Rodgers was. Rodgers to Steelers, Giants, or Vikings, I think downgrade in all 3 teams. Russell Wilson anywhere, I think a downgrade to whatever team he goes to. Pickett to Browns, downgrade. I'm going to shock the world right now to both of you. I'm going to put this up there with our Eagles blowout pick, Pez's picks made. Daniel Jones to the Colts. I think he starts, and I think that's an upgrade to that team. I think that offense fits him better. One thing we learned about the Giants was Saquon Barkley. The Giants stink. Saquon Barkley, my son asked me, is he a Hall of Famer? I said, if he played with the Eagles every year going in his entire career, he'd be a Hall of Famer right now. The Giants made Saquon Barkley look average at best. I think Daniel Jones has the potential to be a decent quarterback in this league, maybe above average. I think the Colts made a great deal with him. I think he beats Richardson now, and he's a starter this year.
Interesting. Ken, what do you think about any of that?
I think the Eagles, if you look at them today, I think they're technically not as good as they were when they won the Super Bowl, just because they've moved on from guys that have proven themselves to guys that I think Pez and I would agree have potential and showed flashes of being pretty good. But, they haven't proven it. You look back a year ago, though, everybody was saying Nolan Smith was a miss in the draft, and he came on last year and had a great season. Milton Williams wasn't getting a whole lot of press. He wasn't really somebody who was really talked about a lot. So, the other big thing about the Eagles, too, is, a few years ago when they got A.J. Brown, they got him on draft night. They've been moving things. They've been kind of, collecting picks. They've been moving around cap space. You got to think that they are trying to, or they've got a move that they're looking to make here in the near term that could, have everybody say, wow, the Eagles actually have really made themselves a lot better. And, I do think the picking up Dylan, the running back that had played with Green Bay there, that was kind of injured and kind of, out of the league there for a little while, is interesting because, how many touches Saquon had last year. I saw some stat about guys that touched the ball that much in 1 year. And even though they had great seasons that year, the next year they really saw a big decline because they just really, their body couldn't withstand that. And having somebody else who's kind of a bruising, bigger type of runner could really take some of the pressure off Saquon this year. So again, if he's healthy and he can actually come in and play well, I think, they've been searching around for these kind of bargain basement type deals and guys who have low risk, high upside. I mean, I like it, but at some point, I'd like to see them add, a bona fide star, somebody that, is really going to help the team. But, so I think at the end of the day, Eagles technically on paper right now worse, but, in reality, I don't think their offseason is by any means done.
When I was at the Combine, all the hot news was the Eagles are in on Myles Garrett. And obviously he ended up going back to Cleveland, but he's still got a guy like Trey Hendrickson out there who they say that since he's going to try to sign him, but with all the other mega deals they've done, that might prove difficult. I think Philly's got to move up their sleeve. I don't know what it is exactly, but I think they've got something coming that they won't be content just to rest on their laurels.
I agree. I definitely think I think that they've got something that they're trying to get done. And maybe Garrett was initially one of the guys. They've got so many edge rushers now that they've added. I don't know if the Trey Hendrickson guy from the Bengals is necessarily going to be one of the guys on the radar, but they've talked about making some moves with Dallas Goedert at tight end. I don't know if they're looking to move up in the draft and get the kid from Penn State, Warren. I mean, obviously that would be a popular pick for people that are, from the area that follow Penn State. That guy looks like he's got a lot of potential. But I would agree. There's something else up their sleeve, but, nobody's tipping their hand as far as what that is.
Pez, what about Rodgers? You mentioned him before, and you said you think he'd be a downgrade for all three teams. Do you have any sense of where he might wind up or what might be the best fit out of those three?
Well, to conclude first, Eagles, I think Cooper Kupp would be an amazing addition to that team. We lacked a third receiver for the last 2 years. I think we can get that guy at a veteran minimum or a maximum, whatever it may be.
Cooper went to Seattle. He's up there with Gino. Yeah. He's up there with your boy Gino. Yeah. In the cold.
When did that happen, Coach?
Just the other day.
It's St. Patty's Day. Anyway, a third receiver would be a great move for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. We're locked down in running back. A Kupp or a veteran, a Samuels would have been great, or any of these guys would be great that are moving around right now. But regarding Rodgers, aside from Rodgers being – he's a distraction. I mean, at the end of the day, if you watched the HBO behind or inside the huddle, Hard Knocks, it was an awful experience 2 years ago to watch him with the New York Jets. He owned that team. He told the coaches what to do. So I think any team that takes that on is risking losing the team. He lost zip on his ball. When you have an Achilles injury, the zip, the velocity on your ball, it's going down. So I think any of these teams, when you're taking a guy, it's going to be 42, 43 years old. I don't think you're winning the Super Bowl in that situation. I like the Steelers in the moves they've made at receiver. Giants have a great receiver. Vikings obviously do too. But I think you need a younger, more mobile quarterback in this league now. At the end of the day, you're not just pocket passing anymore. This is a run or pass option quarterback league. It's where we lack with Joe Burrow a little bit. I think he hurts in that situation. I think in the Rams, we're seeing Stafford that situation. So I don't know what the Steelers do. I'd love for them to get a quarterback. I like that team a lot. I like their dynamic. The coaching's great. But I think Aaron Rodgers, when you look at him physically, distraction-wise, that's a downgrade to me on any team he goes to.
You agree, Ken?
I agree. I think Rodgers is living on reputation right now. I think, when people hear Aaron Rodgers, we, harken back to, the guy he was a decade ago and would be a game changer and would obviously be a huge deal. I think Pez is absolutely right. I mean, not only is he declining from, his play, but I think he's just kind of become this kind of almost like, remember when Rodman was in the NBA kind of at the end of his career and he teams would bring him in thinking, we could get him to put his head on straight, and he'd go out and he'd get like 25 rebounds one night, and the next night he would like barely make any effort. Like, I kind of feel, even though Rodgers isn't, technically probably as far out as Rodman, I kind of feel like he's at that stage where, you're probably not going to get from him what you're really hoping. And I thought the Steelers were a curious fit for him. I think that if there is any chance of him reviving his kind of career and having that last hurrah, it would probably be with the Steelers and Tomlin. But even with that, I would say that's questionable. And that, just even look at the drama of him deciding what team he wants to kind of sign with. You've got all these teams that have talked to him, have made him offers, and he's still out there just kind of, trying to better up an offer or make a decision, and puts all these teams in this limbo state where, they're not really sure what they're going to do. And, to me, I think that just personifies kind of who he is. It's about him. And, to Pez's point, I don't think he makes any team better right now. The Steelers would be the only one that has the potential that he could.
It's interesting because I've been talking to people from different fan bases, gotten a pretty good feel for what the fans in New York and Minnesota think, and I'm certain what Steelers fans think. Universally, none of these fan bases want the guy. Everybody acknowledges that he could probably still play a little bit, but it's everything else. So at this point, I don't think anybody would be disappointed if he just decided to hang it up. And he might, he might just decide, hey, man, I think he really wants to go to Minnesota because they're the closest to winning a Super Bowl, and he's got those great receivers. I don't think he'd mind playing for Tomlin. I think New York is a long shot, but I think everybody's just kind of hoping, man. Aaron, hey, hats off, great career, but let's get out of here while you still have some shred of your reputation left. All right, let's do this, man. I'm going to get you guys out of here on this one. Give me – all right, so I think we're in a consensus that, the best teams are still sort of the ones at the top from last year. Nobody's really broken into that upper echelon yet. The Commanders are right there. But give me a dark horse team. Is there a team out there maybe nobody's really talking about, like the Commanders from last year, that could make that big leap into the upper echelon? Who do you got, Pez?
I like Najee Harris to the Chargers. I think that's a very underrated move.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that quarterback was a little bit exposed when we got deeper into the season. Harbaugh, I don't like the guy coaching, and whatever it may be. Maybe I hate Michigan, but Najee Harris to that team maybe takes pressure off of that guy a little bit. I think there may be a move, maybe two away from being a Super Bowl contender, and we knocked them a lot this year. I think the Steelers, to be quite honest with you, if we look at every position, are equal to the Kansas City Chiefs, except in two, tight end and quarterback. So I think you get a quarterback in the Pittsburgh Steelers, legitimately a Super Bowl contending team right now. I don't know where that quarterback is. I don't know if that quarterback's out there, but I think the Steelers are one of the more underrated teams right now. Vegas, I believe, agrees with DK Metcalf. That's a big jump, and that changes that offense. To be quite honest with you, I think Fields might have been able to take that team pretty far. I don't know about contract situation or I don't know the X's and O's as well as you coach and you guys, but I think a quarterback that can hit the ball to Metcalf, and we're loaded on offense in that situation. Defensively, what we're doing. They're going to finish 500 or above. So I think the Steelers a little bit are an underdog right now, regardless of the quarterback they get, and I like the Chargers a lot too.
Who do you like, Ken?
I think that the Raiders actually made some decent moves. Not to say that they've moved up into the upper echelon of the league, but I think coming from where they were last year to where they could be this year, they've added some more stability. I know there's been a lot of talk about Brady being there now and being more involved, getting a veteran quarterback like Geno Smith. To me, I see them beginning to make steps towards getting out of the dysfunction that they've been in to being, a team that's, winning some games and, competing. Again, I'm not necessarily predicting them to win the Super Bowl next year, but, they're starting at a pretty low spot right now. And I think when you look at what Brock Bowers did last year, they were able to find a way to keep Max Crosby. They've got some pieces there that I think they're starting to put together. And I think more than anything, when you look at franchises, right, that stability and kind of a plan, I think becomes one of the biggest things. And it seems like they haven't really had that for a long time. And maybe now with Brady and some of the things they're doing, they're kind of building on that and that plan a little bit. So I'd look for them to take a pretty good step forward this year. And then obviously see what moves they make from there. But, clearly Carroll's there to, kind of be a gap between whoever the next guy is, but the stability factor, I think, is something that can't be ignored.
Yeah. It's always been a bit of a clown show in the ownership / management area for the Raiders. But with Carroll, Brady, Chip Kelly in there now as the OC, a veteran like Geno Smith, they might have the leadership and the structure to be able to make some noise. And Pez, I'm with you on the charge. I think Najee Harris is a great fit. He's a gap-based run back who was in Pittsburgh in a zone scheme. So he's in the wrong scheme for 4 years. And he still had 4,000-yard seasons. Now he's going to go to a gap scheme, which is a better natural fit for him. Take some of that pressure off Justin Herbert. I think they could be a dark horse for sure.
I love that move, and that team seems to be better than we rated them all year. Quarterback was better than we rated him. I hope he is. It's good to have another quarterback in that way, a pocket passer and a guy that's accurate. I'm waiting on Kirk, a.k.a. Turd Cousins. Wherever he goes, I think he could be a huge upgrade in certain positions. I think for Pittsburgh, huge upgrade. I think to be honest with you, I think the Vikings would benefit from taking him back. I know that's not going to happen, but J.J. McCarthy, who knows who this guy's going to be? Who's the quarterback in that organization? I don't think anybody knows, but I would like to see if Rodgers doesn't go, and I hope he doesn't. I think Cousins a better fit for the Steelers right now. I think you get Cousins maybe a year after rehab from injury. He's got a little more zip on the ball. Very accurate guy. He's going to have targets everywhere. I like him to the Steelers, and I like their chances at plus 4,000, which is about what they were.
Yeah, plus 4,000. Why not, man? Lay a few bucks down on that. That feels like you're not going to miss it if it doesn't play out. And if it hits, you're a genius.
Love it. Plus, it's 5,500 right now. So we want to gamble on position and who's getting who. I think the Steelers right now are the best investment. Every other team's kind of locked in positionally. I would sell on a lot of teams that don't have good quarterbacks, but I think Steelers at 5,500. I like that play right now a lot.
Awesome. Well, this was great, man. I appreciate you guys, coming on. Excellent conversation. Pez, I know you're busy. March Madness about to kick off, right? Pez's picks had a phenomenal football season, 62% for the football season. You geared up for March Madness?
Coach, March Madness for any gambler is overload. I mean, this is what we call go time in the gambling world. We've got numbers, we've got data. If you're looking for upsets, 8 to 9 upsets, a tournament is the average. And when we talk upsets, 8, 9, 7, 10 matchups, we don't talk about that. 5 seed positions or more is an upset. And 8 to 9 in your bracket is what you want to be. Maybe 11 or 12, you want to gamble a little bit. I like St. John's a lot this year. I like the Grand Canyon team to do well this year. I like UC San Diego to have some upsets as well. We'll be talking about all of it this week on Pez's Picks.
Awesome. Well, you guys, appreciate it. Ken, any last thoughts?
I agree with Pez on St. John's, man.
Yeah.
That was my team back in the 80s. They've been in kind of relative obscurity for a while, and Patino's brought him back. So I'm definitely looking for them to have a strong run. So Pez is right. I mean, the onset of March Madness is, from a gambling perspective, a great time. And, obviously, I think nowadays, right, the NCAA tournament is so wide open. It's not like it used to be. So it makes for a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that too.
Gotta love Patino. Patino is the gambler's coach of all coaches. I met him one time at a track called Keeneland in down there in Lexington, Kentucky. It's a classy track, gentlemen. You got to wear a suit there. FFSN would do well there. Get decked out at Armani or some sort of nice outfits, and that track, delightful. The guy was wearing a white suit, and I think it was after Labor Day, which only Patino could pull off. This guy is a miracle worker. There's a lot of, or I'm just going to say, nobody's looking. There's a lot of dirty money behind that team in St. John's this year. So I like their chances a lot, and I like that guy. He's a front horse running manager, and I like that guy. I think as a coach, this is their year.
Well, it's going to be an awesome couple of weeks, man. I can't wait. So, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on. For everybody else, man, join me again tomorrow. It's Whiteboard Wednesday. That's our scheme day where we're breaking down X's and O's. We're going to take a deep dive into the power read concept, one of my favorite concepts in all of football, power read, and we'll break that down on Whiteboard Wednesday. So until then, for Ken Wisnefski, for Pez, from Pez's Picks, have a great day, everybody.